Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a good Thursday night. I'm going to be working on my comic colors and things. And, what I have pulled up right now is just some dumb thing I was working on for uh, patrons and stuff. Doing like a little painting demo. I was just painting this while I wait to get rolling. But, yeah. So, gonna try and make some progress on the comic. I've been making decent passes at everything, so I feel good. This right here is the latest page that I finished. Feeling good about it. So I'm just gonna be rendering this all out, trying to get it looking decent. Yeah, not too much longer until I'm ready to start thinking about getting it self-published and funded and all that. So I'm excited about that. I just talked to my buddy Mark, who printed the Steve Lichman books, and he's looking into the materials for this that will suit the style and, you know, just the visual of it all. But yeah, so it's fun, getting close. So if you have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to leave them in the chat, and I'll answer as I get a chance to look over. What do you think you'll do once you're wrapped up with the comic? I'm just gonna hop over to working on the mainline Starvale comic that I have, which is my like original comic. That's the plan, anyway. I'm gonna be doing like a decent amount of rewrite stuff on that, and some new art and concept design and whatever for the overall look of it. So that'll be something that happens during the whole process. So I don't know how quickly that'll come along, but we're also doing Steve Lichman Volume 3. So maybe just like a mixture of those things through the end of the year. Dave, what made you decide to go for a grid format for this comic? Well, I mean, I wanted to do frames, and I wanted to do very much like designed kind of Art Nouveau style framing. So Yeah, that was the main reason for it, just to make it pretty. But yeah, like not every one of these frames is the same. So you're saying, do I worry about it being repetitive? It's not all paced like this. A lot of it is big open shots and crazier things, and full page spreads and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm just trying to block in the overall kind of colors that are going to be happening here. And I do a ton of adjustments, so I'm not set in stone with this. But I have a general idea of how things are going to go. Any thoughts on volunteer concept work? I'm considering doing it for a month before online classes to get experience working for a studio. I mean, if you feel like it's gonna be helpful for you and you want to just have that experience, then go for it. I mean, I don't have a ton of opinions on something like that, one way or the other. If you want to intern somewhere, that's just, it's up to you. If you feel like it'll be helpful and you want to see how the workflow goes. It'll probably be helpful to be around people who've been doing it a while. I think one of the harder things of like my career was just not having a ton of exposure to that stuff till much later. Because when I initially got my start, I was just kind of, doing whatever from home, and I had no idea how other people's work pipelines went and what was expected of artists or anything like that. I was just kind of went in winging it, and I didn't really understand like the whole workflow for maybe a decade. Have I seen the Wacom Move Ink, by the way? I have not. Is that at their new product or something? Do you think about how 2 pages are going to look together on an open book spread as a composition, or just page by page? I designed them all to kind of flow into one another at the thumbnail stage, so I'm more or less just banking on that working. But I do think about it, but it's I try to like compartmentalize kind of what I'm focused on for each step. So it's like thumbnailing is all about that, like kind of designing everything out, making sure like all the graphic stuff is working. You know, like all the design of the pages and whatever and the shapes. And then from there, I just work on each individual piece, like inking and then coloring it all and laying out all these panels. And like the hardest part of this book, like it sounds stupid probably, but the hardest part of doing this so far has been designing all of the panels and cutting them all out individually, like shaping them all together. Kim needs a dang mic. I know. I have this chair in the background. I mean, I will pull the trigger and just set it up. Here, let me do the thing that you're supposed to do. You take the thing that you know that you need to do in your head, and you know, you like think of when you remember to grab something from the store. It's usually when you're at the store. So the memory trick is picture yourself when you remember to do that thing and you're like, oh shit, I gotta do that next time I'm at the store. Imagine yourself being at the store, remembering that you need to do that thing. So that's what I'm gonna do. Picture myself in the morning setting it up. There we go. It's in my head. Okay, I'm just going to turn off all these background layers and then isolate the character and then start doing all those color fills. How do you go about making posters epic? I'm currently doing Helldivers and the motion in my piece is not strong enough. It may be that it needs some color, but it also might need more stuff. Well, that's kind of a, I mean, that's a personal thing that you could do. You can really do a lot with a poster. There's about 1 million different compositions that you could do that are all very dramatic and exciting to look at. It just comes down to your own personal taste. It's like, what are you into? Are you into like big, bombastic, filled to the brim with detail kind of covers? Or are you more into very simple design stuff that looks really grand and cool? Or are you into like single figure shots? Are you into like saying something with the poster about the game? Is it just about the action? Like, what's your focus? There's so many ways to tackle that. And really it all comes down to composition. It's like if you have a solid composition, your shapes read, and you've executed that stuff well, like there's this nice foundation where everything is discernible and there's a nice flow through the image. And that's really kind of what you're after. It's just a very pleasing composition that just works. Because then you can kind of plug anything into those shapes, and as long as that's there, it'll read. But composition, it's very difficult to master. It's something that you just have to like work on over and over again and get better and better at. Certainly not something I can just kind of say. But basically, you just have a lot of pleasing shapes within a poster that all draw the eye and move the viewer around your image in a pleasing manner and point to all the things that you want the viewer to be looking at. But composition's the most important thing. And of course, I could never really like give you solid advice on something like that without seeing it. Hey Dave, what do you think about learning step by step? I've been doing just perspective for about a year now, soon going on anatomy. Do you think that's a good way to go about things? Or what would you recommend? I don't think that's a good way of going about things, but it's a person-to-person thing. Me personally, I wouldn't do that just because you're getting weaker at other things during that whole time. It's better to just be well-rounded and have your studies cover multiple things, in my opinion, than to just think that like, like I understand the basic principle of what you're saying of like, I'm making this brick perfect, and then by the end of this, I'm going to have a big perfect house with every individual piece is just right. It's like, yes, I would divide your week up like that. Like do like anatomy studies, or even your day, just like here's anatomy studies followed by this, followed by that or something. It's like, I don't think you really have to, like, I never did that stuff. I don't really know. I mean, maybe other people do stuff like that and have had success. But personally, I don't think it's super beneficial to divide everything up so specifically. In that long of a time frame, that's pretty crazy. That's a long time to be focused on only one thing. I would say that you mostly want to be focused on the thing that you want to do and have every single aspect of, what's involved with the thing you want to do in your studies. It's like composition is going to be a part of it. If you want to be an illustrator, it's like perspective, sure, but composition, anatomy, lighting, gestures, even just like having mood studies and things from movies and whatever else to understand basic like lighting setup and how to compose a composition based off of that. I mean, there's like a million things you can do, but isolating it and spending that much time on one individual aspect of art is probably, I wouldn't advise that. It's very limiting. The comp challenge was fun. I believe this is stronger, your Helldivers one, than my Doom one. But the more posters I do, the more I lose the dramatic lighting I got in the year's first poster. Yeah. I I mean, that's all normal, though. It's normal to just be like trying to figure out the balance of everything. As long as you stick with it and you keep on trying, that's really all that you can do. It's more about just your experience, over time, how you figure it all out. Stylistically, what you gravitate towards, what you end up finding is your thing in terms of your composition and design. Trust your instincts. Look at a lot of really good artists who do that thing that you want to do really well. Take what you can from them and then continue to grow. Don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. It's a super difficult thing to do and it's going to take a long time. Regarding the working on perspective for a year, you said, I think it's just me being too much of a perfectionist. Honestly, get out of your own way with that sort of thing. Like if you keep yourself well-rounded instead of incredibly specific, you're going to come out a better artist on the other side, because that thing of like, I need to be perfect it's just a bad habit, and that will carry over into a number of things. And I find that to be like one of the least healthy kind of aspects of a lot of artists, especially like artists who talk about they're like worried that they'll never be good enough to do something or whatever. That sort of thing is pretty rough. It's just not a good way to think about it. Like I honestly think, like the more I lean into like comics and just making my own stuff and painting, I used to be very much like a perfectionist in terms of like these weird rules I had in my head that didn't really matter. And like I held on to them as if they made perfect sense and it was the right way to do things, as if there's a right way to do anything, especially in art. So it's like I had to really get out of my own way with that. And it was just a bad mindset to have. And I feel like it stunted me creatively and it slowed me down in terms of what I was able to accomplish. It's just not great. Like you really gotta open yourself up a bit more and not feel like you're, that these like skill ceiling things aren't like a hindrance to you being yourself. Because the best thing about art and the thing that makes things you is this little bit of imperfection in everything that you do. That's a human thing. That's what makes art great. That's why in a lot of ways AI is bad, because it's just a little too clean. It's not great. I don't know. Take it from somebody who studied every day, all the time, for years. The conclusion I've come to is that that's all well and good, but give yourself a break and just make stuff. Like you're planning and practicing and doing all these things, and then you're disregarding your creative muscle. Had a very exciting week. This past week, got a personal trainer. Feeling good about that. Did a couple sessions, which felt good. Just trying to get active and stay healthy. And then right after my training session on yesterday, I was all kind of like super tight, feeling really sore and just not being able to move great. And you know that thing of like where you're a little kind of like you're either super sore or like maybe like a drunk feeling or whatever, where you're kind of swinging your limbs around, but you can't really get the same control. And I broke my toe on my kid's little wooden tower, and it's not great. So yeah, it's pretty good. Starting to exercise and then just immediately breaking my toe. It's okay. It is what it is. My fear is that on Monday, which is cardio day, that yeah, my toe turned black. My fear is that on cardio day, he's not going to let me do cardio if he knows I have a broken toe. So I am not going to tell him, and we'll see. I'll report back to you if I did a good job or not, or if I make it through the workout without him knowing that I broke my foot. I know what you're thinking. Dave, why would you do that? That's stupid. Because I'm paying for a trainer and I just want to, I want to push myself. My toe doesn't hurt that bad. I know it's black, but I'll be fine. But it's very funny that it's going to be cardio day. I was like, God damn it. Couldn't have picked a worse one. Couldn't have picked a worse one to do. It's cardio day. That's the one I get to do with a broken toe. Oh well. Don't do it. That's stupid. It's not that broken. See, I shouldn't have even brought it up on here. It's really not that broken. It's black, but it's just like a bone fragment or something like that. It's not completely broken. I've broken bones and skateboarded all day before. I'll be fine. I mean, I know I'm older now, but I promise. If it was that bad, I wouldn't do it. I can't tell if I'm even painting on this layer. I can get cysts from fractured toes. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'll be okay. I mean, it's no big deal. It's my ring finger toe. Mega Pussy says, hope you're ready for the consequences. Yeah, I won't take advice from a mega pussy. If you want bonus points, wear sandals and get some big toe splints that look like fingers. Yeah. The initial bit might suck, but once you sink into cardio, you should be able to coast through it. I'll be fine. I bent my foot in the ways that I figured it would bend and move and whatever, but by Monday, I think I'll be okay. I'm thinking of taking a realistic rendering class from Brainstorm Academy. The instructor did some stuff for Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, Riot. Should I go for it? It's $600. Sure. If you feel like that would help. I think I'm sure that there are tips and things and whatever else that can come from that. But if you really want to get good at rendering realistically, paint things from life. Focus on, light and form and how your eye plays with edges and different things, and really analyze what you're looking at. Look at really great artists who paint from life, who imply things very well without rendering every single little detail, and study them. Try to apply what they're doing to your stuff. I never took a class like that, and I'm not saying that means you shouldn't. I'm just saying the way to do those things isn't necessarily rooted in some course somewhere. Like, you could probably figure it out just by sheer effort studying and things. There's this strange thing that can happen with a lot of those kind of tutorials and classes where you kind of like offload the responsibility of learning those things for yourself onto somebody else to teach you, but there's only really tips and things that they can give you, but everything else is going to be the work that you put in. So the majority of what you're going to need to do is going to be self-motivated and on your own time of studying and working hard at it. It's not really something that anybody can just give you the keys to the car and be like, here you go, you're good. You're still going to be putting in a ton of effort in learning all these things on your own. You can't really phone in, good, realistic rendering, great lighting like that. These are things that are, these are things you're just going to have to learn on your own from studies. You never want to get into a bad habit of taking in a bunch of information from just a variety of tutorial downloads and things like that. The number of things that I've held on to from that sort of education is all very much tool related or process related, where I go okay, you do this, then that in Photoshop, and then you get this shortcut. Those are the only things I really hold on to. And then occasionally you get little nuggets of advice that really stand out as good. But for the most part, I've never really gleaned a ton of super helpful info. I feel like you'd have to be in something for a long period to really get a good takeaway, but I'm sure it's a person-to-person thing. Some people learn different. Yeah, having a good teacher or mentor can be priceless, but if you're just going to take an online class where you don't have a ton of interaction, then yeah, I don't know. Especially when somebody who's teaching you isn't primarily a teacher, if they're also just like an artist who's freelancing. Like, I'm not putting anything on the artist in question. I have no idea who they are. But if they're a working artist, working on all those things you mentioned, it's like they're probably also busy doing other stuff. And I don't know if you're getting 100% of that person's attention. And I don't know how qualified they are as a teacher. I'm only really saying this because I've just experienced so many of those kind of classes where it's like they just hire an artist because they like their art. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at expressing themselves or good at teaching. But a great teacher, obviously, it's not going to hurt. What are you talking about, Maddie? Art, money, and success? I need to listen to it. Yeah, right. I'll never listen to a book with that name. Never. Hey, thank you, Dre Franks. Okay. Oh my god, my arms. I like how this hurts. Grabbing my. I don't know if you can tell how awkward that is. Look at my hand going up. I'm so sore. You need me to tell you how a witch sounds? Sounds like, oh! Sounds like that. No problem. All right, let's do this. Let's make this look like there's some light gathering. All right. Yeah, that'll work. What's the most you've spent on an art book, and what was it? Good question. Boy. What's the most I've spent on an art book? I have to really think about it. Technically, I bought the like a first edition book of Arthur Rackham stuff. I have like a first edition like Peter Pan, which I can't even remember how much that was. I don't know. I don't know how much I spent on that. Thousands. I actually have no idea. It was something expensive. Shit. I also have A Wind in the Willows, first edition, and that was a bunch of money too. But that one wasn't. That one was like $600 or something. I just really like books. But other than that, like a more conventional art book, probably like, I don't know, like a normal art book that was just happened to be really expensive, maybe like $300 or something like that. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Really rare books don't go down in value. So there's that. It's a decent investment. Career-wise, I'm at a failed launch situation. Financially, I'm better. I'm getting rid of student loans. It used to be $14,000, now it's $11,000. What do I do after getting rid of student loans? Just go to the moon. Retire. Vanish. Apart from drawing, do you also do inks and coloring yourself? Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it. I do everything. I'm a painter. If you go to, I mean, if you want to, you can just go to my website. If you're not like super familiar with me, just daveraposa.com. I'm primarily a painter. I just do comics too. Ajalon Cole, what's your comic about? It's sort of like a fairy tale-esque comic. Basically, it's about a god that created a god and having to come and discipline that one. I just want to give a bunch of vague descriptions of the comic over and over. Change it a little bit every time. How much time do you dedicate to writing when making a new story such as Starvale? Do you have a whole book written before you do the actual comic art? Yeah, absolutely. The whole thing is written. I think like after you've gone through the process of making a book, you understand how crazy difficult it is to make. So going into a book without having a story committed is, I mean, that's just so crazy to me. So, yeah, just the sheer amount of effort that a book takes, I need to have all the writing, everything done ahead of time. So what I'm kind of doing now is I'm basically just putting together rough colors here, and then I do most of my color fills in Krita. It's just so much faster to draw it all in. So that's what I'll be doing. So when you see me hop over, I'm just doing this to kind of get some like texture in there. That's what all this Photoshop process is. Using texture brushes to block some stuff in. Especially on the like big lady. Will there be any cameos or Easter eggs between this comic and mainline Starvale? Not super direct, but similar. There's like some crossover as far as the theming goes, but yeah, not really. I'm trying to make it so Starvale has like a mainline story, and then I have a collection of kind of like short windows into the world, and that's what this is. The other thing with like this comic is I get to kind of print it however I like, so it's going to be a giant print. This is going to be, I saw somebody in the chat mention artist edition, but basically like for me this comic is going to be it's going to be like twice the size of a normal comic. I just want the art to be huge, and it's going to have the colored version of the comic and then the inks. I'm going to have both of them available in the same book, as well as a collection of all my past Starvale comic work things that I've done. So they'll all be in the same book. Okay, now I can go and hop over into Krita. I'm going to black my screen out so that you don't see any of my client work. And also my vast collection of furry pornography, primarily of me in various sexy poses. Face down, ass up, etc. Alright, let me close that. What do I typically listen to? Music, really, for the most part. Sometimes audiobooks. Any short stack goblins? Is that a question for me? Yes, there's a lot of that I'm drawing. Oh, this on the screen is a painting that I was doing that I showed at the beginning, but forget about that. I'm just waiting for the comic page to load. So this file's just sitting here waiting with the spinning wheel. It'll pop up eventually. There you go. All right. Let's just do all these fills. I think I gotta change the playlist. There we go. Yeah, good night. Yeah, face down, ass up images will be in the final comic release. Would you say that you have a main job with side hustles? Or is your time and attention equally distributed across all of your pursuits? It's definitely not equally distributed. I just thankfully have a couple of jobs going on the side where like that's really the only thing I have to do outside of this comic and, you know, everything that would happen on the Patreon. But yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't call this a side hustle. I could have made like way more progress on this sooner. It's just saving up for a house for so long that it was just that was the priority, was just saving up for a house. And I've been in a house, and since getting in this house have been spending a ton of time just kind of getting everything wrapped up. And in that time, since things have been a bit easier, been doing a lot of things that can't share because it's just, not something that's really shareable, which is like working on the Steve Lichman comic. And then also building out like scripts and ideas for other stuff. But I've decided that this is the year where I'm going to make serious headway on all the comic work, starting with this one, and then just go from there and see how much stuff I can get done. And it's all really possible because of Krita, honestly. I'm just so much faster in this program. Drawing, inking, all that. It's a huge time saver. I mean, honestly, the fact that I can like ink a page, like I inked this page in under 3 hours. So I mean, the pace that I can move at in this program is so fast that it allows me to really kind of plan ahead, where I'm like, okay, I can realistically get a ton of stuff done in, whatever months. I'm using the same brush to color that I used to ink with, just the Sketching Chrome Thin brush in Krita. Have I been watching X-Men 97? I have not, really. I only watched the first 2 episodes. Okay. Let's do the rest of this character. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Okay. You did find a little hack with the chrome brushes that makes them quicker. I don't know if you have it set, but if you make your line with 1 pixel in the brush size, it moves fast as fuck. Yeah. I'll have to try that. I don't know if I'm doing that. I mean, this brush moves pretty fast for me anyway, but I'll try that out. The comic is going to be 100. It's going to be 23 pages. It's really short. It's just it's a short story that I wanted to make as crazy as possible with details and just hopefully a wild amount of effort. I wrote it to be real short. I just wanted to do like a one-shot glimpse into the world sort of deal. And the purpose is not only to just kind of like find a style for the mainline comic, but also to hopefully, once the Kickstarter or whatever launches, that I can have a decent amount of funding to make more books. That's what I would like to do. I mean, I'm gonna do it anyway, regardless of what happens. but it would be nice if it was a good reception, because it's not just a comic, it's going to be also like a Starvale art book, which has a bunch of other stuff in it too. But yeah. Yeah, the larger format should be cool. I'm excited about that. I think that, I mean, those are my favorite ways to get like comic books from artists, is when they sell those kind of one-shot artist editions where they're like huge. I have a couple of those, and those are my favorites. Just like looking at the art, real huge. I like a premium print quality. That's exactly what I want to do. And the book itself is also going to be pretty gnarly. Like, I'm going to get really fancy, like textured pages. I'm going to be running through a bunch of test stuff for the Kickstarter. What in my dreams, the way that this comes out and the way that Starvale, the final, mainline comic, comes out, is that it's printed on like a classic kind of paper that feels reminiscent of like old comics, but with a premium quality to it too. I want it to have tooth, and I want there to be some, just like generally some texture to it. And then I want the cover to be some sort of weird material. I'm looking at a bunch of different options for that, but if it were to be leather, I'd want it to be kind of like a mucked up leather, like not perfect quality. And I feel like that's going to be challenging, but I'll figure it out. But that's the idea, is I want it to feel like an ancient comic, and then I want everything about the cover to feel like that. I'm not going to put any words on the cover or on the spine. Just going to be a nice design on the front cover, and probably some type of like gold foil, but hopefully on a really interesting like textured hardcover. That's the idea anyway. I'm also definitely doing hardcover. I mean, I know I didn't say that, but that's like for me, that's like a given. Has to be hardcover. How much has Starvale changed between what it is now and earlier iterations? Do you wish you had gone all in on it earlier, or did it need this time to fully form? The initial comic that I did, like the one that anybody who's ever read it has read, is just very, off the cuff, not really planning anything. I was kind of just messing around with doing a motion comic, but I didn't have any intention of having it be like a huge thing. I think like once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I wanted to do more with it, but I wasn't married to the story or anything, really. I wasn't feeling like this is amazing. But I felt like the seed of the idea was cool, so I always wanted to make it. And then I actually started really thinking about it, and I wrote the whole thing I don't know how long ago. Before I wrote I think like 118 page script for it, just like typed out, and I did that before having kids, so that was at least 5 years ago. But since then, I've had a lot of other ideas about what it could be, in terms of just having like the feeling of it still be there. Like, I'm not changing it dramatically, but I've just learned a lot about writing since having written that I know how to make it flow better and make the ideas better. So I'm going to be doing that with it. On a lot of the color fills on something like this, I'm not really married to it being a very specific color for everything that I'm filling here. It's mostly just having something there. And then I can adjust all of these later. I don't want to be a jerk or a moron who always asks questions. It's too late. But your advice is just make stuff. It's good advice, but how can you take this and make this a stable career? Well, you have to balance everything. So, I mean, like, I do this and 2 other jobs, and have a family and all, and none of it's easy, like none of the things are easy, but I don't see any other choice I have. I guess all I'm thinking about is that, like, yeah, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. It'll never be easy. Okay. Like, I can accept that and just make stuff anyway and find a way through. Like, I had to build to being able to do what I do now. Like, I couldn't just spend a ton of time doing this stuff on the side years ago. Like, I just couldn't do it. If you want to do something, you just have to find a way to make it viable for yourself. I don't know how other people would do it. The way I did it is I just built my career, worked crazy hours for forever, for almost 20 years, and now I'm at the place I am now, and I feel good about it. But I would never say, like, oh, it's super easy and you should just, make the stuff you want to make and it's just going to be fun and you'll be able to survive doing it. I don't think that. And I don't think you should take my advice as, like, I'm saying just do it because you should just do it, and regardless of whatever is going on in your life. It's like, no. I mean to just do the things you want to do and do everything you can to make every other aspect of your life still function while doing it. And maybe you can't have a work-life balance, or there's really no easy way of doing the things you want to do, especially given how difficult it is to make an income and balance your life. I just don't see any other way, really. The only way that I was able to make the first couple books was just by having Kickstarter and funding them on there, partway through the actual completion of the book, so that we had enough money to then go ahead and make the thing. Yeah. How big will the run be initially? 100 or so books? Well, usually what I do with books is like basically account for everybody who pre-orders via the Kickstarter, and then use whatever profit there is from that, or at least like a percentage of the profit from that, to then buy more stock and then just sell the stock on an online shop and have it shipped via a distributor. And that's really what we've been doing. It's pretty simple. So the amount of stock that I'll order really depends on how many we sell. See, here's an aspect of Krita that's not super fast, is doing all of these like fill things in the lines and whatever, like filling in colors. I don't need to do that in here. It's slowing me way down. So I'm going to stop doing that. I'll do that when we're back in Photoshop. It's much easier to do there. But other things that I want to do in here are little effects for this light. Yeah, Starvale's going to be under Acceptable Comics. This is a personal curiosity, but is there a place someone could see what your client sketches look like if the project is a fully realized illustration, like for Magic the Gathering work or covers and such? I mean, I have some of that. If you're a patron, there's a lot of that stuff on Patreon. If you go back through like step-by-steps of old client work, I mean, there's years of content on there, so I know it's in there, but it might be buried a little. On Discord, I put up some of the sketches in my sketchbook. The Discord is part of the Patreon. I put up some of my sketches for the Diablo season artwork that I did, the season 3 artwork. So I have the sketches for that up there. You switched from streaming on Twitch to providing content on YouTube, and now you're doing personal training. So my question is, when can we expect your fight with Floyd Mayweather? I mean, I don't know when I'll go up against Pretty Boy Floyd, but hopefully soon. We'll wait. We'll see. I need to get in optimal shape. He won't be so pretty when I'm done with him. That's all I'm saying. Buy my energy drink. It's called Nutsack. Okay, now I gotta do some of those streams of light up in front of him. I'm working on an M1 MacBook Pro. Are you good at Beat Saber? I'm alright. My wife is much better than me. She's like a Beat Saber prodigy. Is this a Starvale prequel? It's not necessarily a prequel, but I guess you could think about it like that. Okay, on to the next part. We're making decent progress. It's not incredible, but we're doing all right. I never remember where every color goes on the characters. My memory's terrible. If this were Steve Lichman, I'd be hundreds of pages in and I would know everything about where the colors go. But I have such a bad memory with that stuff. It's so hard for me to, like, especially on complex characters, I can never recall where like every single color goes. What are my inspirations for the designs in this comic? I mean, a lot of like classic stuff, but I would say like Little Nemo is a big one, the old school one. God, it's hard to really say. A lot of it is just like things I like, but I'm so far removed from the initial inspiration that I can't even remember like what made me like these types of designs. But a lot of like 70s anime, French comics, that sort of thing. How did you get the audience for your comic project? I really suck at marketing. Quite a few people manage to market their projects pretty well. Mark Miller comes to mind. I just kind of try to stay consistent with putting things out that are in relation to it. And also, when it comes to like a comic with a stylized look like this, I also try to post up like images that aren't necessarily the comic but are style related to the comic. So like I'll use this same style to do like Vivi from Final Fantasy and a couple other things, just to be like, you know, if you like this sort of thing, then you'll relate it to the comic style too. I don't really do that as I'm not like super aware of doing that, but I definitely try to like use the same sort of look consistently, just so it doesn't feel like, I mean, or just so like people can get into this sort of style potentially, and then hopefully I can sell that. Outside of that, I think you just try to share little bits and pieces of it. Do things like this where I'm just kind of streaming it and sharing the process. But it's definitely an uphill battle. It's going to be, you know, something that you have to convince people is cool. I'm just in a very fortunate place where I, you know, personally, I'm doing fine. Family's doing good. I'm able to do this finally. And I don't care if it does well or not, because I still have the Patreon. I still have my other clients. I'm okay. It's like, so if this just completely tanks, I don't care. I'm doing this just for fun and to challenge myself to do something new. If people like it, then that's awesome. But if they don't, I don't care. I'm only doing this for me, and I'm able to do this for me, and I'm very fortunate that I have that opportunity, and that I can, you know, look at art that way. Okay, now we can start laying in some shadows. How do people practice art for long hours without burning out? Me personally, I just, in a lot of ways, I treat it like a job and not like just a passion. So I treat it like I should get better at it, because it's what I chose to spend my life doing. So I don't necessarily need to be like inspired to do it. I just will do it anyway. And then every once in a while, you know, the inspiration strikes and you feel like really good about certain pieces and things. But I feel like if I'm not actively trying to make things every day, then I'll never have those bits of inspiration. And you'll never get to do all the really cool things that you want to do and be good at that unless you practice and study and learn all the fundamentals and figure it all out. And also go in with the expectation that it's going to be impossibly hard. Because it is. There's too many aspects of art that you need to get down in order to be good at it, that it's very intimidating. Because I feel like if you're honest with your expectations and they're realistic, then you're not disappointed. It's just fall in love with the process of making stuff. That it's really hard and And you can tell yourself, you know, like I've said this before on the stream, but it's something that I think is really important to keep in mind. It's like every time you're at an impasse where you're like, I should give up on this because it's too difficult, you just have to think, okay, this is an impasse that every single person who's ever done this probably got to, and I need to be one of the if I want to succeed, I need to be one of the people that just keeps going, that keeps working at it, that keeps trying to improve, that keeps studying and learning and growing. Doesn't mean you'll succeed, but that's the gamble with, you know, all of life, right? Do you think a big, cheaply printed Western fantasy book would work these days? Like somewhere between Shonen Jump and heavy metal? I think so. If you were targeting the right audience, I think that there's people who would be into that. That's my idea for like a series of comics that I was thinking of doing. Because I was like, I have all these ideas, stuff I'd like to do. Maybe I could do like a compilation book where I tackle like, you know, a couple chapters of a book, you know, of like a one chapter of each book every month, and put out a Shonen Jump type of thing. I mean, I wouldn't do it every month, but every issue would be that, you know, it'd be like it'd be one issue of each property, if that makes sense. Just like a weird collection of like a few things. So it'd be like the Garfield hentai that I was doing. It's not actually pornographic, by the way. And then like a fantasy comic, some other like joke stuff. Yeah. I'd want to do something like that. That was just like a outlet for all of the dumb ideas that I have. But that feels like something that's a ways out. That's like a much further goal. First, I have to do Starvale, Steve Lichman Volume 3. I have to finish this book. And then I can move on to other things, like Skull and Shark. The reason Skull and Shark comes last is because it's the craziest one. And I'm structuring it in a way where I can build a reputation as a comic artist. Not just like doing jokes like in Steve. Like I want to have some recognition for doing other things. And I need to plan out what those other things are. So it's like having Starvale and just like ramping up towards this much bigger, daunting task. And then hopefully by then I've been successful enough that I can fund these things and still pay bills. That's the idea. Yeah, you thought I stumbled across that stuff? That Garfield nasty stuff? Yeah, of course. I did. The thing with like all of the comics that I've like ever tried or wanted to make, there's scripts for all of them. Like there's an entire finished script for Skull and Shark. There's an entire finished script for Starvale. Like all of these things are written. They just need to be better. Because, you know, fortunately I've been able to do a bunch of other writing since then. What about Skull and Shark X Jack Threat Blood Brothers? You're not too far off. Jack Threat's not in the Skull and Shark universe, but there is a character that is. His name's Viper. And that was a whole story that Dan and I wrote for like a Skull and Shark prequel. Jack Threat would be kind of the same thing that like this book is. Like if I were to do the Jack Threat comics that I would like to do, which I've actually already written some, that would be one-shots. That's going to be more like a pulp comic that has one-off stories. I really like Jack Threat though. Probably nobody who's watching this knows what I'm talking about. But thank you for bringing Jack up. Do you write it in script format? No, write it in a notebook first, just on paper, and just write tons of ideas and things and start to kind of piece together the narrative, go for walks and think about that sort of stuff, and then also have conversations, like talk the story through, figure out the beats, like get used to telling the story to people so you can tell it in the best way, and then start, like after all that, like start to really commit things to paper. Or to like writing it down, really. I'm trying to figure out where I put those tendrils. What was the actual plot of Skull and Shark? Looking at it and listening to the soundtrack, it comes across as like buddy action cyberpunk vigilante story. I mean, the gist of it was that there was a city that once was pretty normal, like New York, and then there was a giant uptick in like gang activity and things, and the big coup within their government. A bunch of stuff happened, and then the city was overturned to all these people, and the whole world changed. And there's bigger things that happened in the universe, in that world at the same time. And basically, in order to survive, the city shut itself off from the world. And then a bunch of other things happened that I probably won't give away. I'm trying to think of what I can say that is different than what it is now. I'm just telling you the story, what it was back in the day. But yeah, you don't really know what the characters are, you know, Skull and Shark. It's not like a big in-your-face type of story. There's going to be like scenes of them doing things, and they're like a major part of the plot. But there was like a handful of other characters that were going through the motions of like this really insane night. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, that story was really fun. But my favorite characters have like never been shown. Only one of them was shown, and that was because I needed to have artwork for sorry, hold on. I needed to have artwork for Power Gloved, if you're familiar with them, the electronic group from Australia. They did a song for Skull and Shark called Motorcycle Cop. Yeah, I can play it actually. Let me pull it up for you so that I don't just have to explain it. So this song was for Skull and Shark. So what we would do is basically just like send the script off to the people that were working on it. But yeah. So this was based off like the description of the character and everything. It's good. Yeah, the character that this song is based off of is my favorite character from Skull and Shark. I was always excited to get this character all done in the book. Oops. This was the only character shot that existed back then of this dude. This is like from almost, I don't know, like 13 years ago. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about where this style is at right now, like the one you're looking at on the screen, like I could so easily make a Skull and Shark book with this type of style. Like not like the anime faces, but more like the more realistic stuff, like the big lady here and all that. It's like I could so quickly make a Skull and Shark book, at least, you know, relatively quickly. So I feel confident. This story just needs to be dialed in. And I also just want the time, you know, I want to build up that career as a comic artist, get known for that. So much to do, but it'll all get done, I promise. Now that I'm actually able to do it all. Yeah, exactly. Reptile. That's what this feels like. Do I think of games while Are you thinking of games too doing these? No, not really. Back in the day I would have, but knowing what I like know with experience in making games, I don't want to be part of that. Yeah, I'm still really into everything Laserhawk did for this Skull and Shark album. I love the feeling of it. Okay, cool. Did all the color fills and knocked in the shadows. So the last thing that I'll need to do for this is all the other balancing that I'm going to be doing in Photoshop, and then coming back here, adding like spot highlights and things, and generally just getting that all sorted. But this is essentially it. This is the hard part, is just getting all of this together, and then I'm excited. Can't wait to see what you do with the lettering, especially in contrast to how you handled it in Steve. Yeah, in Steve, I just went with like loose, bad handwriting. I mean, it's not terrible, but I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. This one will be all handwritten. I won't use a font. It's short enough where I can do that. Yeah. With Steve, I was obviously going for like a jokey font, just something shitty. Do I ever wear the drive jacket while I draw? Absolutely not. I did collect like a bunch of jackets. I had like the Thriller jacket from Michael Jackson. I just thought it was funny. I had like that. I had the one from Beat It. I had the Drive jacket. I had what other ones did I have? Like Terry Bogard's jacket. Okay, I'm gonna call the stream now. We're just at about 2 hours. Thanks everybody for hanging this long. I appreciate it. Appreciate all your support. If you want to see more of the comic and just help, make this all possible, you can always become a patron. The link is in the description below. $5 a month. Tons of content. Lots of stuff on there. This will hopefully be wrapped up before the end of May, with like funding starting in June. I'm guessing, if I had to put a date to it, something like that. Maybe something will go wrong and it'll take much longer. I don't anticipate that, but if it does, hey, we're super close to the end though. I really don't have many more pages left to color. And once that's all wrapped up, we can fly. Just move on to the next stuff. But yeah, thank you all, and I will see you next Thursday. Yeah, we'll be back 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And I'll be rendering up this dude for the Patreon. Just showing you some basic steps of this. It's a little short demo. Nothing wild. But yeah, talk to you all later. Bye, everybody.